New Westminster, built on the banks of the Fraser River, is one of the oldest cities in British Columbia. It has a proud history of respecting its heritage while looking ahead with vision and hope. The Heritage Society was created more than 40 years ago by this grassroots movement who wanted to stop the wave of demolitions of heritage homes. Today, we talk with two of these preservationists, Eric and Kathleen Langstroth, who have been so instrumental in enhancing the heritage character of the city, one house at a time.
New Westminster today, especially in the Queen's Park neighborhood, is way different than it was in the 80s, when there were so many houses that were run down, many that had been or still were rooming houses, and people bought them because that's all you could afford. You couldn't afford the finished house, so you bought the fixer-upper, and we just all fixed up the houses and restored them.
Eric is a metal fabricator by trade. He has a keen eye for detail and focusing on making to-do lists when starting any project. He was restoring and racing old cars and setting records years before he was restoring old houses. This experience has helped him transfer his skills from the garage to the house. Kathleen is a retired teacher. She seeks to bring the beauty to a restoration, whether choosing the paint colors or a wallpaper. She knows that a mature garden needs to be respected and nurtured as the backdrop for any project. Together, they are dedicated to their shared passion of heritage restoration. This is most evident with their current labor of love, restoring the Speck House.
One of the things that concerned me when I went through the house, when it was open, I thought, if I don't buy this house, somebody else is going to get it and wreck it. The whole house for me, it's an art form. It's a fantastic painting here that needs to be honored. And as the custodian here, custodians of this house, we have done it justice.
To be a custodian is to be a caretaker of a home and to respect the home and know that you are in it now, but you're going to pass it along to somebody else who hopefully will love it and cherish it as much as
and respect it.
And respect it, yeah.
We have honored the architecture of this house, and E.J. Bowen was the architect, and anything that we've had to adjust or make changes to, we've done it exactly as if it looks all original to the house, and it's come out really well.
Kathleen, you were the president of both the Brow of the Hill and Queen's Park Residents Association. You were very helpful in achieving the heritage conservation area in Queen's Park. What are your thoughts on the HCA?
Well, first of all, I was merely the president during the HCA, so it was the entire board of directors, but more importantly, it was the entire Queen's Park neighborhood. There were hundreds of people who supported and backed the heritage conservation area, and that all came from a house that was up the street on 3rd Avenue from where we are now that was torn down, and we're just outraged that somebody would tear down an absolutely gorgeous home that did not need to be torn down. I just happened to be there when the HCA came through, but we had an incredible board of directors that supported it, and the community as well. I think it's done wonders to protect the homes. 1940 and older are protected, and that's given stability to the neighborhood because you don't want these homes to be demolished willy-nilly. And what was happening before the HCA is people were coming in and taking down houses without any respect to what they were and their heritage value, and in many instances, even the condition of the homes.
After years of community consultation, the Heritage Conservation Area was established in 2017. It has led to dialogue about how the city will balance the need for density and heritage preservation. The Hezekiah Stead House, located in the historic Brow of the Hill neighborhood, is one of the earliest restoration projects in the city. And this is where it all began for Eric and Kathleen. So this is the Hezekiah Stead House. It's built in 1901. We're in the Brow of the Hill neighborhood. You embarked on this restoration project in 1987, the year you got married, you two. Tell us about some of the obstacles, some of the joys, and any advice you could give homeowners who have big dreams and maybe limited budgets.
Well, I think the biggest advice I would give to people starting out is to not jump in right away and with a bunch of preconceived ideas as how they should fix it up. Get in the house for a while and enjoy what the bones of the house are. When we first got into this house, it was a 6-room rooming house here in Brow of the Hill, which I term Big Sky Country because of the view you can see from the airport to Mount Baker on the Fraser River. It was a really great view. We gained a passion for fixing up old houses from this house and became part of the what I call the old house club of fixing up old shacks, and it was great.
And this is a Victorian house, and so Victorian houses are a little elegant, more glitzy to restore because they've got so many details.
After the Stead House, you moved to another house in another neighborhood of a different era. What inspires you to start all over again with another project? The Hicks house was a large undertaking.
Well, that was not planned and not in our vision at all. As a matter of fact, we hadn't even finished the Stead House when my sister called to say that there was a house for sale at 211 7th Avenue in the Glenbrook neighborhood. We had no intention of moving, but when I went with my sister to go through the house, it was an arts and crafts house, and arts and crafts happens to be my very favorite style of a home. And so I went through it, and it did need work. But when I finished touring the house, I walked out and said, I have to have that house. I love that house. I love everything about the house. And it was perfect because there was hardly any woodwork painted, just in the kitchen and the bathroom. Whereas in the Stead House, everything had been painted. So I thought, this will be easy to restore because there's not half the, there's not the work of stripping and taking all things out. And so then that night I came home and said to Eric, you've got to come and see this house. And we went and looked at it, and Eric was a little bit hesitant, but I convinced him.
Yes, you did.
And the next thing you knew, we were on our second project and madly finishing the first one.
But it's funny, that house had been stuccoed and all the windows had been taken out and replaced with aluminum, single glazed aluminum windows, and the career that we had to redo all the windows now became a passion of collecting stained glass through Victoria, Seattle, Portland, Vancouver, and gathered all period stuff for the house, and it came out really well.
Then you're just about to retire. Kathleen, you had plans to relax and travel, but then the dream house became available. Let's talk about a third move to the Speck House.
My idea of a project was to buy a nice little cottage at Maple Beach in Point Roberts, because I thought that would be a lovely little project for him. And I almost had him convinced of that until he went through this house. And I knew that we had to buy it because Eric needed another project.
How do you manage to respect a house's heritage and its past, while acknowledging the need to mechanically update it and provide modern conveniences that people really want today.
For me, the look of the period fittings, and you can't do it in the kitchen because we don't use a wood stove anymore, and we don't have an ice box anymore. But I mean, kitchens and bathrooms are what make the place fit to the 21st century, the 22nd century, wherever we are here, and it has to work on a modern basis and be convenient, or else it's just a museum and you can't live in a museum. And so like even old toilets and stuff, I put modern guts in them so they work properly, and sinks and things like that I've had all refinished and stuff that are very much period stuff, but they have modern taps to them and things, but they don't look new. So sourcing vintage looking parts, you really have to know where to look to be able to find those things that look original, but they are modern and don't require any old-time maintenance that people can't do anymore. And so that's a big part of what we try to do here is just make it look period, but make it work modern.
Eric and Kathleen have been active volunteers for the Society's Heritage Homes Tour, whether it's by opening up their homes or helping behind the scenes. They understand the event is important for heritage education and advocacy. The tour is also essential in helping the community acknowledge and respect the past while we all work together toward a more thoughtful and resilient future.
And for me, it's an honor to showcase the houses that we've been in. And again, the last house, the house on 211 7th Avenue, the Hicks house, we had that on twice as well in a as we got it state and in a finished state. And then we've only had this house on once at the 40th annual tour. But it's good to show people the progression of what you too can do, and and empowers people to kind of take it on themselves. And that's what it's all about.
What do you think the future holds for heritage preservation in our city?
Well, I think we have done our part, our generation, and I think you pass it on to the next generation for them to carry on. We have restored 3 homes, but also so many other homes have been restored throughout the city by other people, and they are in great shape to last for the next 100, 150 years. So it's really in the hands of the people coming up now to care for the homes. It's important that we maintain the character of the neighborhood and that we also maintain the green space, because the green space is as much part of the built heritage as the buildings themselves. So it's important that that green space is maintained and that the densification is gentle.
It's important as well that the next generation of heritage people, the younger crowd, kind of carries the torch and respects the heritage that we have here, so that all the work that we've put into getting these neighborhoods to look the way they look, that they didn't look like this 30 years ago, that kind of gets maintained. And so, be the custodian of your houses here and carry that torch proudly, because it's your future.
You've had a busy life.
Wouldn't want it any other way, would we, sweetheart?
Not at all. What would we do with all that free time?
There was no free time. There's only working on old houses.
Yeah, we got to get another life.
Which one would you like?
I like the traveling part.
All right.
I know, even now, because we don't have any thing to look for. I keep saying to Eric, we used to go to Victoria, we used to go to Seattle, we used to go to Portland, we used to do all this stuff looking for house parts. And I said, we never go there anymore. And he said, that's because we don't need any house parts. We've got them all.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
I went, darn it. We need to start looking for something.